What's up, Romy? My name's Erin, and I love everything that has to do with being outside. I oversee an outdoor rec program at a university, so I teach students everything about adventure education, paddling, hiking, climbing, and I love to do all of that on my free time as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite places in the country, Dolly Sods Wilderness in West Virginia. And we're going to talk about hiking and backpacking in this area. Dolly Sods is a really diverse ecosystem that contains bogs, some rocky terrain, and all of this is more commonly typical to southern Canada. Elevations in this area also range from 2,500 to over 4,700 feet. What's really interesting about Dolly Sods is the military used to use this area for training during World War II. And so the Forest Service recommends nobody leaving the trail because there could be unexploded ordnances around the area. Now, they say that it's unlikely for us to ever experience that, but they just want to be extra careful. So we want to make sure that we're always on the trail here in Dolly Sods. The last time I went to Dolly Sods was a trip leader training with some of my student employees. I was teaching them how to be wilderness guides, how to be trip leaders, to be able to do things like this themselves. And we had a few odd experiences. So the first one is about the weather. So I've never been to Dolly Sods and it hadn't rained the entire week I was there. And that's part of Dolly Sods in that area. So while we were there this first week of May, we only had one evening of rain, and the entire week was dry and sunny and beautiful. So, very odd. The second was we had a kind of scary river crossing attempt. So, because it had been so dry, that one night of torrential rainfall created some flood levels to Red Creek, and that was the day we were trying to cross Red Creek. Now, we spent an hour and a half walking upstream, scouting, trying to figure out a way to cross Red Creek. Inevitably decided that it was not safe and not possible. So we had to climb up a cliffside to get out of the creek. And one of the girls was trail named Mudslide because she kept sliding down the cliff. We ended up climbing into a campsite and were able to dry off and recreate our route. So we had to go back to where we came to avoid crossing the Red Creek. Um, and then last, we had an odd experience, an odd animal encounter. So, our last day, we had to leave and hike out at 2 a.m. because we had to be back at a certain time. So, we're doing a night hike, and I'm in front, and I am looking down with my headlamp to make sure I'm not stepping in, terribly boggy area. And I look up and I see these big gold eyes staring back at me 10 feet in front of me. My first thought, it was a bear. And so I tell everybody to don't run, stand tall, and make as loud of a noise as possible. So we all do that, and we seem to scare away this big animal. So we keep walking, we're all staying close together. And to the right of us now, this animal is following us. And the only way we can see him is when it looks back at us and their eyes reflect from our headlamps. So the animal followed us for about 2 miles, and we ended up getting back to our van. And we are still unsure what that was because that's not really common behavior for bears. Bears don't really stalk. So we kind of think it might have been a mountain lion. No, they don't really say mountain lions live in Dolly Sods, but there have also been a few confirmed sightings, so we can't really know. No one really gets to see mountain lions because they don't usually let you see them. So we're not sure. It was a very thrilling experience, and something that would not deter me from ever coming back to Dolly Sods because that is kind of the risk you take going into the wilderness is finding kind of an animal encounter. So I've started at a variety of trailheads in Dolly Sods, but my favorite is Bear Rocks Trailhead. This is a great, beautiful view to begin your hiking. Dolly Sods has 47 miles of trails, so you can do day trips, you can do multi-day trips for backpacking, whatever you are interested in. But also remember that the terrain is really different and challenging. It can be really rocky, or you could be walking through a bog. Dolly Sods doesn't have a reservable system for backcountry camping, so they do dispersed camping, which is finding sites along the trail. Because of the challenging terrain and need for map and compass skills, I would not recommend this trip for beginners. Now, if you have beginners in your group and you're very experienced, I think that's fine, but this is not a very beginner friendly area. In conclusion, backpacking Dolly Sods should definitely be on your bucket list. I would recommend heading there anytime between May and November. The spring flowers are gorgeous and the fall colors are unmistakably beautiful. And as always, plan ahead and prepare, practice leave no trace, and thanks for listening.